Welcome to our special storytelling program, where we journey beyond the laughter of the runway and the comfort of the airport terminal to explore the real lives of the stars who became our television family. In 1990, the television series Wings premiered, transporting audiences to the small, windswept Tom Nevers Field Airport on Nantucket Island. It was a show that found magic in the mundane, creating a warm, eccentric family out of pilots, countergirls, and mechanics. With its sharp wit and undeniable heart, Wings became a staple of 90s television, a comfort watch that felt like coming home. It was a story about brothers, about dreams deferred, and about the hilarity of everyday life. But behind those classic characters, the bickering Hackett brothers, the stingy Roy Biggins, and the lovable Lowell, were actors with destinies entirely their own. 35 years have passed since the hangar doors first opened. Time has etched very different marks upon their lives. Some climbed to the very peak of Hollywood's critical acclaim, while others faced battles with addiction, profound loss, and quiet health struggles that the cameras never captured. Let us now look back at the tumultuous, inspiring, and sometimes heartbreaking journeys of the cast that became the soul of Wings. Rebecca Schull as Faye Cochran. We begin with the soothing presence of the airport. Rebecca Schull, who played Faye Evelyn Cochran. At the age of 61, she stepped into the role of the sweet, slightly scatterbrained but deeply wise ticket agent who kept Sandpiper Air running. Faye was the mother hen of the group, a former flight attendant with a history of 3 dead husbands, yet she maintained a sunny disposition that anchored the show's chaos. Her performance was a masterclass in subtlety, bringing a warmth that made the cold Nantucket setting feel cozy. But behind Faye's calm exterior, Rebecca Schull was living a life of intense intellectual and emotional depth. Born in New York in 1929, she was not just an actress, but a woman of the world, educated in the arts and deeply connected to the theater. Her real-life marriage to Gene Schull was the polar opposite of Faye's tragic romantic history. They were partners since 1951, sharing a life of mutual respect and love. However, as her career found a new resurgence in her senior years, her personal life entered its most difficult phase. As she filmed projects like United 93 and Suits, she was also the primary caregiver for her husband as his health declined. The mental strain was immense. She spent her days memorizing lines and her nights tending to the person who had been her constant support for over half a century. It was a silent act of devotion, balancing the demands of a late-blooming career with the heartbreaking reality of saying a long goodbye. After Gene passed away in 2008, Rebecca didn't retreat. Instead, she channeled her grief into her work, proving that vitality does not end at retirement age. Today, at the incredible age of 96, Rebecca Schull resides in New York City. She has lived a life defined by discipline and consistent work, rarely seeking the limelight, but always delivering excellence. With an estimated net worth of $15 million, she stands as a testament to longevity, proving that one can remain creative and vibrant nearly a century into life. David Schramm as Roy Biggins. Next, we turn to the antagonist we love to hate, David Schramm, who played Roy Biggins. In 1990, at 44, Schramm inhabited the role of the blustery, competitive, and often greedy owner of Aeromass. Roy was the perfect foil to the Hackett brothers, a man who seemed to care only about money and winning. Yet Schramm's impeccable comedic timing revealed the lonely, insecure man beneath the bravado. His booming voice and physical comedy made Roy one of the most memorable characters on the sitcom. However, the man behind Roy Biggins was vastly different from the character. David Schramm was a classically trained actor, a founding member of the acting company under John Houseman and a graduate of Juilliard. He was a man of the stage, deeply respected in the theater world for his work in Shakespeare and Chekhov. But his life was not without its shadows. Growing up in a dysfunctional environment, he learned early on that life could be cruel and unpredictable. Acting became his sanctuary, the one place where he could control the outcome. Despite the fame Wings brought him, Schramm largely retreated from Hollywood after the show ended. He returned to the theater, his first love finding, the screen work unfulfilling compared to the live stage. But as the years went on, the passion that drove him began to take a toll on his body. struggled with health issues that he kept very private. The voice that once commanded the screen began to weaken, and heart problems began to limit his ability to perform the roles he cherished. Sadly, his final act came too soon. On March 28, 2020, David Schramm passed away in New York City from a heart attack at the age of 73. It was a sudden end to a life built on artistic discipline. He left behind a net worth of approximately $15 million, reflecting a career dedicated to the art of acting rather than the pursuit of celebrity. Amy Yazbek as Casey Chappelle Davenport. Amy Yazbek burst onto the scene in the later seasons as Casey Chappelle Davenport, Helen's chic, sophisticated and slightly neurotic older sister at 32. Amy brought a frantic energy and a refreshing blend of charm and chaos to Nantucket. Her character was looking for direction, much like the actress herself was looking for her place in the industry. But behind the on-screen humor, Amy Yazbek's real life was destined to be defined by a love story that turned into a national tragedy. In 1999, Amy married the legendary comic actor John Ritter. They were a golden couple living a life that seemed charmed, raising their daughter Stella and sharing a love that was palpable to everyone around them. But the fairy tale shattered on September 11, 2003. While rehearsing for 8 Simple Rules, John collapsed. He was rushed to the hospital where he was misdiagnosed. He died later that night from an undiagnosed aortic dissection. He was only 54. The shock hit Amy with the force of a physical blow. She was left a widow with a 5-year-old child, forced to explain to her daughter why her father wasn't coming home. The grief was suffocating. For a time, the darkness threatened to consume her. But Amy possessed an indomitable spirit. She channeled her agony into action. She sued the doctors involved not for greed but for accountability, and she used the settlement to establish the John Ritter Foundation. She dedicated her life to raising awareness about aortic health, saving countless lives in her husband's name. Today, at 62, Amy Yazbek lives a life of purpose. She acts occasionally, but her true role is that of a guardian of her husband's legacy and a protector of public health. With a net worth of approximately $12 million, she has turned her greatest tragedy into a mission of love, ensuring that the laughter John Ritter gave the world continues to heal others. Tim Daly as Joe Hackett. Tim Daly starred as Joe Hackett, the responsible, neurotic, and disciplined owner of Sandpiper Air. At 34, Daly was the show's anchor, the straight man whose anxiety fueled the comedy. His handsome, reliable persona made him the heart of the series. But behind this image of stability, Tim Daly's personal life was a complex navigation of relationships and physical trauma. Tim was married to actress Amy Van Nostrand for nearly 3 decades, a lifetime in Hollywood standards. They raised 2 children, but the constant pressure of the industry and the struggle to balance careers eventually took its toll, leading to their divorce in 2010. Following this, he entered a high-profile, decade-long relationship with actress Téa Leoni, which quietly ended recently. Throughout these emotional shifts, Daly threw himself into his work, finding critical acclaim in The Sopranos and later as Henry McCord in Madam Secretary, but his resilience was tested physically in ways Joe Hackett never experienced. In 2017, while skiing at Sundance, Tim suffered a catastrophic accident, breaking both of his legs. The injury required surgery and a grueling recovery process that left him dependent on others. A difficult position for a man used to being the reliable one. Furthermore, as an avid pilot in real life, he faced the very real dangers of aviation, reminiscent of his character's profession. Today, at 69, Tim Daly is a survivor. He remains active in high-quality television and is a passionate advocate for the arts as the president of the Creative Coalition. With a net worth of $10 million, he lives with the quiet confidence of a man who has rebuilt his life, both emotionally and physically, multiple times. Thomas Hayden Church as Lowell Mather. Thomas Hayden Church played Lowell Mather, the dim-witted but sweet-natured mechanic. At 30, he became the breakout star of the show. Lowell's non-sequiturs and innocent stupidity were comedy gold. However, Church was far from simple. He was a man of fierce independence who found the constraints of a sitcom suffocating. He famously left the show before it ended, a risky move that could have ended his career. Instead, it launched him into a strange and fascinating trajectory. He found massive success with the film Sideways, earning an Academy Award nomination, and later as the Sandman in Spider-Man 3. But just as he reached the A-list, Thomas did the unthinkable, bought a massive cattle ranch in Texas and largely disappeared. He rejected the Hollywood lifestyle entirely. His personal life was equally guarded. He had a long-term relationship with Mia Zatoli, with whom he has 2 children, but they never married, and the relationship eventually ended. Church chose a life of isolation on his ranch, preferring the company of cows to producers. He has spoken about the physical toll of ranching and the loneliness that comes with such a secluded life, but also the peace it brings him. In 2025, at the age of 64, Thomas Hayden Church remains an enigma. He emerges from his ranch only when a script truly moves him, then vanishes. Again, with a net worth of $20 million, he lives a life that is authentically his own, proving that you can be a movie star without ever stepping foot on a red carpet if you don't want to. Crystal Bernard as Helen Chappell. Crystal Bernard played Helen Chappell, the lunch counter girl who dreamed of being a cellist. At 29, she was the petite powerhouse of the show, her Southern charm and neurotic energy providing the perfect balance to the Hackett brothers. For 7 years, she was the girl next door that America fell in love with. But off-screen, Crystal's life was shaped by a strict religious upbringing that often put her at odds with the industry she worked in. Her father was a Southern Baptist evangelist, and Crystal navigated Hollywood with a set of values that made her an outsider in the party scene. She was also a talented musician and songwriter, penning hits for other artists. Yet she struggled to get her own music career to the level she desired. After Wings ended, Crystal slowly faded from the screen. She didn't chase the limelight. Instead, she became incredibly private. She never married, and while she dated high-profile figures like Grammy winner Michael Shipley, she kept her heart guarded. As the years passed, she effectively retired from acting, finding that the roles offered to women over 40 did not interest her or align with her beliefs. Today, at 63, Crystal Bernard is a ghost to the public eye. She lives a quiet, private life in California, occasionally surfacing for Wings reunions where she still flashes that famous dimpled smile. With a net worth of $5 million, she remains a mystery. A woman who conquered television and then simply chose to walk away to sing her own song. Brian Haley as Bud Bronski. We come to Brian Haley, who played Bud Bronski, the mechanic who replaced Lowell in the later seasons. Stepping into the shoes of a beloved character is a thankless task, but Haley brought a different energy, a former Marine with a dry, deadpan delivery that won over the audience. Before Wings, Haley was a stand-up comedian fighting for laughs in the brutal club circuit. His life has always been defined by a blue-collar work ethic. Unlike his co-stars who sought stardom, Haley sought steady work to support his large family. He has 5 children, and the pressure to provide kept him grounded. He didn't become a superstar, but he became that guy in huge movies, appearing in The Departed, Gran Torino, and The Man Who Wasn't There. His journey has been one of quiet consistency. He faced the uncertainty of Hollywood not with ego, but with the discipline of a soldier. There were lean times when the phone didn't ring, but Haley returned to stand up, touring the country to keep the lights on. He is the working man's actor, the one who shows up, does the job perfectly, and goes home to his family. Today, at 62, Brian Haley is still working, still funny, and still standing. He may not have the fame of Thomas Hayden Church or the awards of Tony Shalhoub, but he has the respect of his peers. With a modest net worth, he represents the reality of the acting profession. It's not always about the private jets. Sometimes it's just about doing good work and raising good kids. Tony Shalhoub as Antonio Scarpacci. Tony Shalhoub joined the cast as Antonio Scarpacci, the Italian taxi driver who was perpetually unlucky in love and life. At 38, Shalhoub turned a guest role into a main character through sheer talent. Antonio was sad, pathetic, and hilarious. But for Shalhoub, Wings was just the warm-up act for one of the most successful careers in television history. While Antonio was a loser, Tony became a winner. He went on to star in Monk, winning 3 Emmys, and then The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, winning yet another. He became one of the most respected actors of his generation. His personal life has been a rock of stability. He has been married to actress Brooke Adams since 1992. A rarity in his profession. However, even the most stable lives face terror. In 2020, at the height of the pandemic, Tony and his wife both contracted a severe case of COVID-19. It was a terrifying ordeal that left them exhausted and isolated, facing the very real fear of mortality. The experience shook him deeply, adding a new layer of vulnerability to his recent performances. Today, at 71, Tony Shalhoub is an icon. He continues to work at the highest level, bringing a deep humanity to every role. With a net worth of $20 million. He stands as the most critically acclaimed member of the Wings. Alumni, a man who played a sad taxi driver but lived a life full of joy and triumph. Steven Weber as Brian Hackett. Steven Weber played Brian Hackett, the carefree, irresponsible, and charming younger brother who drove Joe crazy. At 29, Weber was the comedic dynamo of the show. His manic energy and impeccable delivery creating some of the series' funniest moments. He was the lovable screw-up, but off-screen maintaining that energy masked a more turbulent reality. Weber's personal life was marked by the instability that often accompanies early fame. His first marriage to Finn Carter ended just as Wings was taking off. He later married Juliette Honan, with whom he had 2 sons, but that union also ended in a long, drawn-out divorce in 2013. The emotional toll of these separations was heavy. In the years following Wings, Weber worked incessantly, perhaps to outrun the silence. He appeared in everything from The Shining miniseries to iZombie, afraid that if he stopped working, he would be forgotten. He has also been open about the excesses of the past. Like many stars of the 90s, he had to navigate the temptations of alcohol and the party lifestyle, eventually finding that clarity and sobriety were the only ways to sustain a long career. He faced the depression that comes when the phone stops ringing as often as it used to, forcing him to reinvent himself from a sitcom lead to a dramatic character actor. And reinvent himself he did. Today at 64, Steven Weber is enjoying a career renaissance as the antagonist, Dr. Dean Archer on Chicago Med. He has aged into a gravitas that serves him well. With a net worth of $4 million, he lives a life focused on his sons, and his work having tamed the chaotic energy of Brian Hackett into the focused discipline of a veteran actor. Farrah Fawcett as Alex Lambert. Farrah Fawcett joined the cast in Season 4 as Alex Lambert, the confident helicopter-flying love interest of Brian Hackett. At 24, she brought a toughness and charisma that shook up the boys' club of the airport, though she appeared in only 35 episodes. Alex became a fan favorite, a character who represented independence and strength. But beyond the spotlight, Farrah's life was a journey of difficult choices and quiet battles. After her success on Wings and Lois Clark, she faced the immense pressure of 90s Hollywood. The demand to be perfect, to be everywhere, to sacrifice self for fame. After the birth of her twins, Chuck and Whit, Farrah made a decision that few in her position dare to make. She walked away. She left the glitz of Los Angeles and returned to her roots in Texas, choosing the role of a mother over the role of a star. For years, she lived a fulfilling life away from the public eye, raising her children and enjoying the privacy she fought for. However, a silent enemy was waiting. Farrah was diagnosed with cancer. It was a battle she fought with the same tenacity she brought to her characters, but she did so privately, refusing to let the tabloids chronicle her pain. She protected her family from the public gaze until the very end. Tragically, the fight ended on February 25, 2022. Farrah Fawcett passed away at her home in Texas at the age of 54. She left behind her 2 children and a modest estate. A woman who proved that the bravest thing an actor can sometimes do is leave the stage to live a real life.